Hi there, welcome to my gaming vlogs. The PC Engine was always a mystery for me. I got to know about this console later in my life, already as an adult. So, I have absolutely no nostalgic connection to it. I never even heard about it when growing up. Until recently, I knew nothing about its story or even its games. Yet, I get myself coming back to play it day after day. Every time I read more about it, I find interesting aspects or facts about this console that make me want to know more and more about it. Every time I go to a retro shop and see a game for it, I get this excitement that does not happen anymore for any of the other consoles that I already know. Recently, I got access to the Analogue Duo from Analogue, which contributed to my newfound interest in the PC Engine. In this video, I will talk a little bit about my journey and findings with this amazing platform. I will also talk a little bit about my impressions of the Analogue Duo as a new retro gaming product. And I will show to you what I have been playing and the games I recently discovered for the PC Engine. And don't forget, if you like this type of content, like this video and subscribe to our channel. It helps a lot and allows us to create more and more videos like this one.
PC エンジン512色スーパービジュアル6チャンネルリアルサウンドニューワールドを制覇する PC エンジン全開 NEC から
The PC Engine is a console of the 4th generation, and it was released first in Japan in 1987 by NEC. At its release time, it was a very powerful console with an 8-bit CPU and two 16-bit graphics processing units, making it the first 16-bit home console released. In Japan, the PC Engine was very successful. It had a very different design, quite futuristic for the time. It played games using a proprietary format, the Hue cards, and had great support from third-party companies, which made it the top-selling console in Japan. When it was brought to the US, things did not work well. Its name was changed to TurboGrafx 16, and the console received a major remodeling. After some delays in the console release and the distribution of some games, and some very bad marketing strategies, the console was a failure.
Introducing TurboGrafx 16, the next generation video game system. It's 4 times faster, so the games are more exciting. There are almost 10 times as many colors, so the arcade quality graphics are even more intense. And you can expand your system with a CD player for CD games with sound effects that are turbocharged. TurboGrafx 16 from NEC, the higher energy video game system.
There was a plan to release the console in Europe, but after the disaster in the American format, it was never released. That explains why, growing up in Brazil, I never had contact with this console. It was too exotic and risky to bring to the local market, and the local companies focused on the Sega Mega Drive and Super Nintendo as their main products. The only contact the Brazilian market had with the PC Engine was the video game magazines and one another crazy adventurer that got the chance to import the video game. The PC Engine was a difficult console to understand and to collect for, due to a very specific reason. There are more than 15 different models of this video game. Trying to stay ahead of its competition, NEC made several upgrades to the PC Engine hardware over the more than 10 years that this console stayed in production. Probably the most important of these upgrades is the CD-ROM package, which allowed games to be played from a CD-ROM. This was the first home console that used CD-ROMs as game storage. Storing games in CD-ROMs instead of Hue cards allowed developers to add much more assets to their game. This made a huge difference, in particular for music. Games on the PC Engine could have much higher quality audio assets when compared to the cartridge games.
540MB の大容量迫力のデジタルサウンド今スーパーマシンと呼べるやつはそういないソフトもエキサイティング PC エンジン CD-ROM システム ROM
The CD-ROM package was a success in Japan, although it was quite expensive. A person would need to buy the console and the CD-ROM package, which cost almost the same as the console itself. Over the years, NEC released several upgrades to the console aiming at increasing its RAM and the reading speed of the CD drive. This leads to a large confusion, as there are specific hue cards that only play on specific console upgrades, and games with CD-ROMs that need a Super CD-ROM package to play, for example. My story with the PCEngine started some years ago, when I got the PCEngine Mini. This mini console was released in 2020, right in the middle of the trend of the mini consoles. It had a good selection of games, and it was released in two versions, the PCEngine and the TurboGrafx 16, with some small differences between the games for each variation. I have heard about the console before, but this was my first contact with it. As I always read that the PCEngine was a shooter machine, it never caught my attention. I am not a big fan of the genre. But when playing some of the games on the mini console, I was very surprised. Some of them are really amazing. I got completely hooked in Utopia 2 and on Castlevania Round of Blood. This opened my eyes to the console and I started to collect for it. Today, I have in my collection the PCEngine Duo version that bundles the PCEngine and the Super CD-ROM 2 updates into one nice looking console. I have the impression that it is heavily inspired by the Neo Geo AES console, but with some interesting quirks. The Analogue Duo is a take of Analogue on recreating the PCEngine ecosystem using FPGA. You can check our previous videos about some of the other products from Analogue and how they are quite impressive. The Analogue Pocket, their handheld console, recently released a set of adapters that allows us to play hue cards on it. But the Analogue Duo goes a step further. It is the first console released by Analogue that can read CDs. And that's a game changer. The CD library of the PCEngine is amazing, and being able to play it on a modern architecture is great. As the other products, the Analogue Duo is an FPGA reconstruction of all the PCEngine consoles. This means it can play all the types of hue cards and all the different CD-ROM types that were released to the PCEngine in a single machine. This is amazing. The console is shaped after the Analogue Duo, which looks fantastic in my opinion. It reads games on the hue cards and the CD-ROM formats and outputs them in Full HD using an HDMI connection. It is powered by an USB-C cable and it features two USB ports in the back and an original PCEngine controller port on the side. It also has Bluetooth capability, which means we can play it using the original PCEngine controller, any supported USB controllers, or even Bluetooth controllers. There is support for using SD cards, which are used for firmware updates, and to store screenshots and save states. It uses the Analogue OS to manage all of this, so if you're used to the Pocket or any other Analogue product, you will feel at home. This is yet another impressive machine from Analogue. It's a solid product and makes the task of playing PCEngine games much more easier. Well, talking about the games. In total, 678 games were released for the PCEngine, the vast majority being released in Japan. NEC and Hudson Software released tons of first-party games, including Bomberman, Bonk, and Adventure Island. The most famous games on the system, however, are horizontal and vertical shooters. As I do not enjoy much this type of games, I will list here some of the games I enjoyed playing on PCEngine recently. And who knows, maybe some of them will surprise you. Utopia 2 is an action RPG game that takes a heavy inspiration on The Legend of Zelda. This game is super fun, and it was the first game that pulled me into the PCEngine console. It has an amazing graphics, even when compared to Zelda, and the soundtrack is really good. The plot is quite straightforward, just go and save your father, but the mechanics, the variety of actions and enemies is quite impressive. Dungeon Explorer is a dungeon crawler game, heavily inspired on role-playing games from the 1980s. This game is difficult, but this old-style take on RPGs really interests me. Choose a class and help the king to save his kingdom by killing monsters and exploring dark places. It's super fun. Kadash is an action side-scroller game with some elements of platform and RPG. It is quite a unique game, as the characters you can choose to play are a fighter, a mage, a priest, and a ninja. The game itself is relatively fun, although not so easy. The moves of each character makes it quite interesting to experiment and replay this game over and over again. Castlevania Rondo of Blood is a prequel of Symphony of the Night. It was originally released for the PCEngine and is quite an amazing game to play. It uses a bit of the exploration concepts found in the newer Castlevanias, which makes it super fun to play. The last game I will show today is Splatterhouse. It is a beaten-up game where you control a student who was resurrected inside of a mansion of horrors and has to find his way out by beating monsters. This game is very bizarre, but it's super interesting. The PCEngine is quite a specific gaming platform, with a vast story and a very confusing lineup of hardware. This makes its games, which are fantastic, quite underappreciated outside of the Japanese market. I hope that with the Analogue Duo, more of us can get to know more about the system, and like me, enjoy discovering new and different games for it. Well, that's all from me today. I really hope you enjoyed this video and see you all in the next one.